Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Repearon, and today we're going to be doing another build guide for the Corrosive Sludge Pump. This is going to be going over all of the overclocks and the builds that I run with them. This doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best builds to be running with these overclocks, and by any means, if anybody feels like they have a better or different and equally effective build, feel free to leave that down in the comments below. I've already talked about the basic builds that I usually run with it without overclocks. You can check that video out. So our very first one is Hydrogenion Additive. This one increases your DPS by 2. This is the corrosive dots, so as your corrosive eats away at them, it will do a little bit more damage. This is 2, and then the slow is actually increased from 35% to 44.75%. So we have a little bit faster DPS once we put blobs on the ground, as it would be, and then it increases our slow, which is great. This, like pretty much every other or almost every other clean overclock, can really be ran however you like to run the sludge pump. Usually the way that I run this one is with the air compound, so that they have bigger puddles, with atomized nozzles so that we got more puddles. Extra ammo just because it's handy, although the extra slowdown is also pretty nice. Either the spillback extension or the improved spooling mechanism, it's completely your choice. Spooling mechanism is faster and you can get more DPS out, but the spillback makes you more ammo efficient, so you get a lot of extra ammo from this. And then I usually go with the protein mix here, even the more slow, but any of these in tier 5 is pretty good. I like the acid as well. The acid is pretty good with this, where you just kind of stack acid and you burn through things really quick, at least as they try to walk across it. It's also fantastic if you have multiple teammates, especially if you have like an engineer and their turrets are focusing something as the acid's just eating them away. This overclock I really like, and like I said, you can really build it however you want. If you want to build damage, you can. If you want to build sustain, you can. If you want to build AoE, you can. Any of them are fine. Our second clean overclock is the Aeg Mixture. This one, pretty much like I said with the other clean overclock, you can build it however you'd like. This one increases the projectile velocity, so you don't have to arc your shots as much. This really helps when you're trying to shoot things in the air. The projectiles are also less affected by gravity than normal, so your projectiles will drip down quicker, or drip down slower, which can be really useful if you hit it up on a wall or a ceiling or something like that. It drips down on top of stuff, especially if you're hitting Mactera. It's pretty good for that. And just like the last one, you can build it however you'd like. So you could go with this exact same build, go with something like this. If you wanted more damage, switch it up to something like that, or whatever you want. Perfectly fine. However you like using the Corrosive Sludge Pump, you can. I use it pretty much the same way I did with the other one, going with something like this, so that we've got more AoE, or I guess larger AoE, more fragments, more ammo efficient, and then slow down on it. Alright, now moving on to the balanced overclocks. We have our first one here, which is Volatile Impact Mixture, and this one I really thought I wouldn't like, just based on what it sounded like, because you do have more regular shot damage and you have more charge shot damage, but you lose out on corrosive damage over time, and your puddles are not lasting as long. Now, those actually don't matter all too much. Most of the time when I was using this, I didn't find that my puddles were sitting around any longer or less than they really need to, and the damage over time ticks didn't really matter either, because most of the time this did enough damage. And the way that I build this one is I go with the high capacity tanks so that I have more ammo. I go with the potent goo mixture, so that way we're doing 50 damage on shot. Then I go with the more goo canisters, so we go from 100 to 150 extra ammo. Then with spillback extensions, so that way every time we use a charge shot, it's only taking 4 rounds rather than 5, although I have used this with the improved spooling mechanism and it works perfectly fine. And then I go with the ingredient X. So I build like this because with this build you can one-shot grunts with just a regular shot, which is great. It will take a little bit of time, but they're not really in any danger of actually hitting you, and that's usually what I would do if there's just 1 or 2 grunts, running around. Especially if I just want to run around with the Corrosive Sludge Pump, just shoot one shot at things. You can kill Mactera, I think, in 2 shots. Maybe it's 3 with the standard Mactera. I think it's 3 or 4 with the Tri-Jaws. I don't know how many it is for the Brundleflies. And then I think for the slashers, it's just 2 shots. For the guards, I think it's 3. I could be wrong about that. It might only be 2 since there's the armor breaking on this. But this one is surprisingly ammo efficient. You get a lot of value out of this one. I think this is probably your most ammo efficient build, barring something like Goo Bomber if enough stuff just runs through it. But this one does really well. Use single shots to be killing any sort of stragglers or any one-off bugs, and then use the charge shots against crowds. You have tons of ammo with this. You're losing less ammo thanks to the spillback, which is great. And you're doing pretty good damage towards everything. I would definitely recommend this build. I found that it worked really well. You could also switch this over to the slow. The slow works even though your puddles don't last as long. The amount of slow you get is still pretty good with this. You could also go with charge shot too if you wanted to do even more crowd damage. But I like having the potent goo mixture just so that I can one-shot grunts. I don't think you can with just regular shots otherwise, and that makes it a little bit awkward. Our next overclock is the Dispenser Compound. This gives you more charged fragments and more fragment damage, but less charge shot area damage. This one is really actually pretty good too. This one is just great for status effects. So again, I like going with the air sensitive compound just to have bigger puddles. I like going with the atomized nozzle so that we have even more puddles, because going from 8 to 18 puddles is pretty great. Going with extra goo canisters, it's just so nice to actually have extra ammo with this weapon. The extra slow is also really good. Going with either the improved spooling mechanism or the spillback, whichever you'd like, and then going with the slow. This is usually how I build this one, and it just slows down everything so quickly. I have tried this with the acid, and it works alright. It does amp up your damage per second quite a bit because you're going to be able to cover an entire floor with goo. And it's definitely going to kill any like swarmers around there pretty much instantly, and it will likely kill any grunts incredibly fast if you go with this, as well as slashers and a few others. I like the slowdown because this works even better against big things, but again, this is your personal preference, whatever you'd like. Also, I imagine the ingredient X would be good too. I don't know if I've tried it with this, at least with this particular build, but I don't see any reason why it would be bad either. Then we're moving on to the unstable overclocks, where we have Goo Bomber, which Goo Bomber is pretty cool. This one gives you more fragment damage, and the puddles last longer. However, your shot will just keep going. So you don't get any bonus for hitting something directly, I don't think. So it makes the most sense to kind of lob these over and just try to put down lines. I have a whole video where I was doing just this on Hazard 5, and it was no problem at all. I found if you just kind of build yourself a little triangle and just keep shooting the goo bomb in that way, it works pretty well. You set up a decent little like fortification if you just keep kind of running around it. Nothing can get super close to you besides Macterra. Macterra are a little bit of an issue. With this one, you can really go with any of these tier 1s. I've tried them all, and I like all of them. I usually go with this just because it increases the sludge's width. But I have tried the faster projectile speed. That one works really well. And I've tried extra ammo, which is always good. Again, more fragments. I just like having the extra fragments, but any of these would be fine too. Extra ammo because I will be using the ammo quite a bit, but the slowdown's also pretty good if you want to run that. I do like going with the improved spooling mechanism on this one because usually when I'm using this, I want to use it quickly. If you don't have that problem, then spillback extension is really good. And then again, I really like the slowdown with the tier 5 slow. This is great for status affecting any sort of thing. It's really good in a team because you can just be playing pretty much as the support of the group. The Sludge Pump really does feel like a support weapon, and Goo Bomber is fantastic for doing that. And then we got our last overclock, which is the Sludge Blast. This turns your Sludge Pump into a acid shotgun, more or less. Now, you lose out on magazine size, you lose out on total ammo, you lose out on reload, you lose out on splash damage, and your charge time is higher. The only real upside you have is that you have a shotgun, and it has double the velocity. This one, I find it pretty fun. I find this overclock particularly fun, but it's not very good. Pretty much any of the other overclocks are better than this one. This one is probably the weakest because it's the least ammo efficient, and you can run through ammo really fast. You can kill crowds fairly quick with this, and you can kill single targets fairly fast with this too. But the amount of effort you have to put into it doesn't really help. And since Driller doesn't have a secondary with tons of bullets right now, at least that you can use to like fight off hordes and stuff, it's kind of awkward to use this one, I would say. Maybe once they add a new secondary for the driller, that might not be an issue. Right now, the best one I found is probably persistent plasma, or just running oversized magazines with the Sabata, and either way, it's just kind of alright. So with this one, I usually go with just all damage because that's all I want to do with it. So with this one, I usually go with the faster projectile. You could go with the high capacity tanks. Either one of these is fine. You could even go with air sensitive compound. Both of them are decent. Usually I go with the faster moving projectile just so that I can really hit whatever I'm trying to aim at mostly any range. Go with potent goo mixture so I do more damage with just the regular shot, so I can actually be killing stuff kind of efficiently with this. Extra ammo because you're going to need it. Spill bag extension because you're probably going to need the extra ammo, although spooling mechanism does make your shots faster, so if you're only taking this on a Dreadnought mission, probably take that one. And then the ingredient X so that we do armor damage, because these other two really don't help as much, since this one's probably going to punch right through whatever we hit and then hit maybe something behind it, and these do more damage over time or slow over time. So the armor breaking makes the most sense here. Like I said, this one's probably the weakest overclock, which is kind of disappointing because it is a really cool overclock. I wish it was better, but that's just how it is sometimes. So these are all of my builds for the Corrosive Sludge Pump and all of its overclocks. So thanks everybody for watching this. I really do appreciate it. And special thanks to the supporters of this channel. These are my members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos like this. And if you would like to do that, then check out the links down in the description. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!